It was a typical morning for Keanu Reeves. The sun was just rising, casting a warm glow across the city streets, and he was out for one of his daily walks. Keanu was known for avoiding the spotlight as much as possible, preferring the peaceful anonymity that his morning walks provided. With no entourage, no cameras, just a simple jacket and jeans, he took in the sights and sound of the neighborhood around him, enjoying the quiet before the city fully woke up. He walked through the city with his usual calm and contemplative demeanor, often lost in thought. It was a peaceful routine, a break from the hectic world of film sets and red carpets. He had learned to appreciate these moments of solitude, where he could simply exist without being constantly surrounded by attention. As Keanu strolled down a familiar street, he glanced to his right and noticed something unusual. A car parked along the curb, its windows slightly rolled down. In the front seat, he saw a young woman, clearly distressed, holding a baby in her arms. The car, an older model, looked worn and cluttered, its contents spilling out of the open trunk. The woman's face was tired, her posture slumped as she rocked the baby gently. Keanu slowed his pace as he took in the scene. His eyes lingered on the mother and child, sensing something wasn't right. The car wasn't just a temporary stop. It was clear that the woman had been living in it for a while. There was something heartbreaking about the image, and Keanu felt an instinctive pull to check in to see if there was something he could do. Not one to shy away from his humanity, Keanu approached the car slowly, making sure not to startle the woman. He was used to being recognized, but today he wasn't a celebrity, he was just another person who wanted to help. He tapped lightly on the window, giving her a moment to respond. When she looked up, he gave her a warm, reassuring smile. "Hey, is everything all right?" he asked softly, not wanting to intrude too much but still genuinely concerned. The moment he spoke, the young woman looked up in surprise, as though she hadn't expected anyone to care. She seemed hesitant, unsure at first, but there was a look of relief in her eyes when she saw the kindness in Keanu's face. For a moment, neither of them said anything, just a quiet understanding passed between them. And then, with a soft, tired voice, she spoke. "No, things aren't great. We've been living in the car for a while now. I just don't know what to do anymore." Keanu, his heart heavy with empathy, stepped closer. "What's your name?" he asked gently, giving her space but showing that he truly wanted to help. "Sarah," she said, her voice shaky but grateful. "And this is Emma," she added, glancing down at the baby in her arms, who was sleeping peacefully despite the chaos around them. Keanu's heart clenched at the sight. A young mother, struggling to care for her child with no home to go to. He could sense her fear, her exhaustion, and yet there was something about her that radiated strength. Without missing a beat, Keanu spoke, his tone calm and kind. "Sarah, I want to help. I know it's not much, but I can get you a place to stay for a few nights. Maybe we can figure something out together, okay?" Sarah blinked in disbelief. She wasn't used to people reaching out to her like this. Not without judgment, not with the expectation of something in return. But Keanu wasn't just offering money or a handout. He was offering something more: compassion, humanity, and a chance to breathe again. Sarah hesitated for a moment, unsure if she should trust a stranger, especially one who seemed so different from the kind of people she was used to interacting with. After all, celebrities like Keanu Reeves were untouchable in her world, so why would someone like him want to help someone like her? But as she looked into his eyes that seemed genuinely concerned and full of kindness, she felt a sense of relief. It wasn't pity she saw, but compassion. There was no judgment in his expression, no sense of obligation, just a quiet understanding. "I don't know what to say," Sarah finally whispered, her voice cracking slightly. I never thought anyone would care enough to offer help." Keanu smiled softly, not looking for thanks. "You don't have to say anything. I just can't stand to see anyone struggling, especially when there's something I can do about it." Sarah looked down at Emma, the tiny baby who had been through so much already. She felt a lump form in her throat, overwhelmed by the weight of it all, the long nights, the constant worry about her baby's safety and well-being, the overwhelming fear of never being able to provide the life she wanted for her daughter. And now here was Keanu Reeves, someone she had admired from afar, someone she never expected to encounter in her wildest dreams, offering to help without hesitation. "Do you have somewhere you can go, Sarah?" Keanu asked, his voice gentle. "A shelter, a place with a bed and food?" Sarah shook her head. "I've tried every shelter I could find, but the waiting lists are too long. And even if I did get in, I don't know what I would do. I'm just trying to keep Emma safe. This car is all I have left." Keanu nodded, his heart heavy with understanding. He had heard about homelessness in the news, read about it, and seen the statistics, but it was different when you saw it firsthand, when you saw the human side of the issue. Sarah wasn't just a statistic to him. She was a mother who had been dealt a rough hand, trying to do the best she could for her child, and he couldn't ignore that. I know it's not much, but I've got a small place nearby, Keanu said, his voice steady. I'm going to make a few calls, get you both somewhere safe for the night. Let's get you out of this car for now, at least. It's the least I can do. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. She had been trying to hold it together to stay strong for Emma, but hearing Keanu's offer of help, something she never thought would come, broke the dam she'd been holding up inside her. She tried to keep the tears at bay, but they came anyway. Thank you, she whispered, her voice barely audible. You don't know how much this means to me. Keanu nodded, his eyes full of empathy. I'm glad I could help. But this is just the start. We'll get you settled, and then we'll figure out what comes next. As they both stood there, with the warm sun starting to rise higher in the sky, Keanu knew that he wasn't just offering a temporary fix. He was offering Sarah and Emma something more, an opportunity to start fresh, to get back on their feet, and most importantly, the hope that there were still people in the world who cared enough to make a real difference. I'll be here for you, Sarah, Keanu added, his tone sincere. You and Emma aren't alone in this. We'll find a way to help you get back to where you belong. Sarah nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. She had been living in darkness for so long, but now for the first time in months, she saw a glimmer of light. She knew it wasn't going to be easy, but Keanu's kindness had given her hope that maybe, just maybe, she and Emma could have a better life ahead of them. As Keanu looked at Sarah, holding her baby so tightly, his concern deepened. He had lived a life surrounded by wealth, fame, and luxury, but in that moment, none of it mattered. Sarah wasn't looking for money or a handout. She was looking for a way out of an impossible situation. Keanu could see how deeply the weight of her struggles had affected her. He could tell that she was exhausted, emotionally and physically, from trying to protect her baby while fighting a battle she couldn't win alone. Keanu's thoughts drifted to his own experiences, the times he had faced hardship, the struggles he'd seen and been a part of in his own way. Though his life had been far different, he understood that feeling of being trapped, of having no clear way out. And he knew that Sarah's situation wasn't just about needing a place to stay. It was about the overwhelming uncertainty that came with being a parent and not knowing how to give your child the life they deserved. As he watched her carefully, Keanu's mind raced with ideas of how he could help. He knew that offering her a place to stay for a few nights was just the beginning. What she needed was a way to rebuild her life, a path to something sustainable. He couldn't solve everything for her in one day, but he could take that first step, that first action, and try to show her that help wasn't as far out of reach as it might have seemed. He crouched down beside her, on level with the baby, and spoke softly, trying to bring some comfort to the tense atmosphere. I know it might not seem like it now, but this doesn't define you or your future, he said. This is just a part of your story, not the whole of it. Things can get better. Sarah's eyes welled up again, but this time, it was different. She wasn't just crying from exhaustion. She was crying because, for the first time in a long time, someone had taken the time to really see her and her struggles. She had been fighting alone for so long, trying to keep up the appearance of holding everything together, but the reality of her situation was wearing her down. Keanu continued, You're doing the best you can, but sometimes we all need a little help. And I'm here for you. We'll find the resources you need and get you back on track. You're not in this alone anymore. He could feel her relief as she listened, her shoulders slowly relaxing under the weight of his words. He wasn't offering her empty promises. He was offering her action, support, and a genuine willingness to help her find a way out of this dark chapter. I'll make some calls. There are places I can connect you with, Keanu said, standing back up. But before we go anywhere, I think we need to get you and Emma out of the car. We can grab some food, and I'll make sure you both have a warm place to stay for tonight. Let's start with that. Sarah nodded, the tears still falling, but this time, they felt different. They were tears of gratitude and disbelief. She couldn't believe how a chance encounter on the street had completely changed her perspective. She wasn't alone anymore. There was a stranger, someone she had never imagined she'd meet, offering her help without hesitation, expecting nothing in return. Thank you, she whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. Keanu smiled gently, offering a reassuring hand. You don't have to thank me. Just know that help is here. Together, they left the car behind, with Sarah feeling a sense of lightness she hadn't felt in months. For the first time in a long time, she felt a flicker of hope, the kind that had seemed out of reach, like a distant memory. As Keanu led Sarah to a nearby cafe, he could tell that she was still processing everything. The walk was quiet, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Keanu didn't press her to talk, giving her the space to collect her thoughts. For Sarah, this was an overwhelming moment. She was used to keeping to herself, to being strong in silence, but with Keanu walking beside her, offering genuine kindness, it was hard not to let her guard down. Once inside the cafe, Keanu ordered coffee for himself and a warm tea for Sarah. As they sat down at a small table by the window, Keanu spoke gently. Sarah, I know this situation is tough, but it's not permanent. Things can and will change step by step. And I'm here to help you take that first step. Sarah stared at her tea, not knowing how to express the gratitude she felt. She had spent so much time in survival mode, feeling disconnected from the world. Now, with someone like Keanu sitting across from her, offering her real help, it almost felt too surreal to believe. I've tried so hard, Keanu, she finally said, her voice trembling. But no matter how hard I try, things just keep falling apart. I don't know how to give Emma the life she deserves. I just want her to be safe, to have a home. But I feel like I'm failing her. Keanu's expression softened, and he leaned forward slightly, his eyes filled with understanding. You're not failing her. You're doing the best you can with what you have. But sometimes you can't do it all alone. And that's okay. You have to let others help when you need it. This isn't a weakness, it's the strength to recognize when you need support. His words struck Sarah deep in her heart. She had always felt the pressure to do it all by herself. Her pride had made it difficult for her to accept help, but as she looked at Keanu, she realized that accepting help wasn't a defeat. It was an opportunity to get back on her feet for both her and her baby. Keanu continued, I've been in situations where I felt helpless, where things seemed impossible. But with time, I learned that sometimes the answer is just one person reaching out. It can change everything. You don't have to carry this burden alone anymore. We'll figure out a way for you to get back on your feet. Sarah was overwhelmed with emotion, but she managed to nod. I don't even know where to begin, she admitted. That's okay, Keanu replied with a gentle smile. You don't need to know everything right now. We'll start with what we can do today. First, let's get you settled. I'll arrange a place for you and Emma. Make sure you both have the essentials, and then we'll work on finding a more permanent solution for housing, employment, whatever you need. Sarah couldn't believe what she was hearing. In the space of just a few minutes, this stranger, Keanu Reeves, no less, had transformed from a passerby into someone who was actively trying to change her life. She had come to the cafe with nothing but doubts and fear, but she was leaving with something she hadn't felt in months, hope. As the conversation continued, Keanu quietly reassured Sarah, emphasizing that she wasn't alone in this fight. He also took a moment to speak about the importance of self-care, not just for her, but for Emma as well. You can't give to Emma if you're completely drained, Keanu said. It's okay to take a moment for yourself, to breathe, to let someone else take the weight for a while. The idea of self-care was a foreign concept to Sarah. She had been so focused on surviving that she had forgotten about her own well-being. Keanu's words opened a new door for her, one that would help her start the process of healing, not just for Emma but for herself too. By the time they finished their tea, Sarah felt like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Keanu had made it clear that they would take it one day at a time, with no rush or pressure. But for the first time in a long time, Sarah felt a sense of control over her future. She wasn't sure what would happen next, but she was no longer facing it alone. As they left the cafe and walked back toward the car, Sarah turned to Keanu, her eyes filled with gratitude. I don't know how to thank you, she said, her voice breaking. You've given me something I never thought I'd have again, hope. Keanu smiled softly, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. No need to thank me, Sarah. I'm just here to help. You're the one who has the strength to get through this. With that, they moved forward, not knowing exactly what the future held, but with the knowledge that things were beginning to change. Sarah had taken that first step, and it was just the beginning of a new chapter, one that would be shaped by kindness, support, and the realization that no matter how difficult life got, there were always people willing to help when you needed it most. Keanu could sense the hesitance and uncertainty in Sarah's eyes, but there was also something else, a flicker of hope. She was slowly beginning to believe that her situation wasn't hopeless, that there were people willing to lend a hand. Keanu knew that the path ahead would still be difficult for her, but he was determined to make sure she didn't have to face it alone. As they left the cafe, Keanu asked, "Do you have any immediate needs, Sarah? Anything I can do to make things a little easier for you and Emma right now?" Sarah paused, blinking back more tears. She hadn't expected anyone to ask her that, to consider her immediate needs in such a personal way. She had spent so long just trying to survive one day at a time that it was almost overwhelming to think of what she actually needed. After a moment's hesitation, she answered quietly, I need somewhere safe for Emma to sleep tonight. And I need to make sure she has enough food and diapers. I don't want her to go without." Keanu's heart ached as he listened. This wasn't just about offering temporary help. It was about providing Sarah with the security she desperately needed for her baby. The simple things that most people took for granted, like a warm bed, food, and clean diapers, were luxuries for Sarah right now. "I can help with that," Keanu said, his voice calm but determined. "I'll take care of everything. We'll get you both set up for the night, and I'll make sure you have all the essentials. Don't worry." He pulled out his phone and made a few quick calls. Within minutes, he had arranged for a nearby hotel to offer Sarah a room for the night, as well as a grocery delivery to ensure she and Emma had plenty of food and supplies. He also contacted a local organization that helped families facing homelessness, ensuring that they would reach out to her first thing in the morning to start working on a longer-term solution for housing and support. Keanu, noticing the disbelief in Sarah's eyes, added, "You don't have to worry about anything tonight. It's taken care of. Just focus on getting Emma comfortable, and we'll handle the rest." Sarah was speechless. She had been living in constant worry and fear, always wondering what would happen next. But now, for the first time in months, she felt like she could breathe. She felt a sense of relief wash over her, knowing that she didn't have to keep fighting on her own. "Thank you," Sarah whispered, still in shock that someone like Keanu, someone so far removed from her daily struggles, was offering to help in such a profound way. "I don't even know how to repay you." Keanu smiled softly, shaking his head. "There's nothing to repay, Sarah. You just focus on what's next. What's important is that you and Emma are safe tonight. That's what matters." With everything arranged, Keanu escorted Sarah and Emma to the hotel. He made sure they had everything they needed: extra blankets for the baby, toiletries, food, and some essentials. He also made sure to leave her with his contact information, offering to check in later to see how she was doing. Before he left, he gave her a kind, reassuring smile. "You've got this, Sarah. And remember, I'm just a phone call away if you need anything." As Keanu stepped away, he couldn't help but feel a sense of fulfillment. He had acted on the impulse to help, not because it was a grand gesture, but because it was simply the right thing to do. There were no cameras, no media, no fanfare, just a quiet act of kindness that would make a lasting impact on Sarah's life. Sarah watched him walk away, her heart full of gratitude and disbelief. This was a moment she would never forget, not just because it was Keanu Reeves who had helped her, but because it had shown her that no matter how dark things got, there were always people willing to extend a hand when you needed it most. And for the first time in a long time, she believed that she and Emma could have a future beyond the car. As Sarah settled into the hotel room with Emma, a sense of relief slowly started to settle over her. The room was small, but it was clean, and most importantly, it was warm and safe, something she hadn't experienced in a long time. Emma was asleep in her arms, peaceful and unaware of the difficult days they had just come from. For the first time in what felt like forever, Sarah allowed herself to relax, just for a moment, to feel what it was like to be free from the constant worry and fear that had defined her life for so long. Meanwhile, Keanu sat in his car outside the hotel, his thoughts a little heavier than usual. He had helped people before, he donated to charities, made appearances at events to support causes, and lent a hand when he could. But something about this encounter with Sarah and Emma had affected him deeply in a way he hadn't expected. As he sat there, staring out the windshield, he thought about his own life. The privileges he had, the career that had afforded him opportunities and comforts beyond most people's wildest dreams. But that didn't stop him from noticing the glaring disparity between his world and Sarah's. He had his own struggles, of course. No one was immune to life's challenges, but it was hard to ignore the vast difference between the life he had and the one Sarah was living. And despite everything, she was a mother who was doing everything she could for her baby, even in the face of insurmountable odds. That alone, he thought, made her stronger than most. It wasn't just the poverty that had struck him. It was the hope that Sarah still carried, despite everything. She didn't give up on her daughter. She kept fighting, kept trying, even when the world seemed to have turned its back on her. It was something he admired, something he couldn't fully understand, but deeply respected. He found himself reflecting on the way people in his life, in his world, often took the smallest things for granted. He thought of the many times he'd taken comfort, safety, and security for granted. After all, what did he know about truly struggling? Sarah's situation had opened his eyes to a reality he hadn't been fully aware of before. Keanu shook his head, trying to push the overwhelming thoughts aside. He had made a promise to Sarah to be there if she needed help, and he intended to keep that promise. But he also realized that this wasn't just about helping someone in need. It was about understanding, about seeing people beyond their circumstances. It was about doing what he could to make the world a little bit better, one small act at a time. As he sat in his car, he made a silent vow to continue helping people in whatever way he could, not because it would make headlines or create a buzz, but because it was simply the right thing to do. In Sarah's eyes, in her gratitude and her tears, he saw the kind of raw humanity that reminded him of why he did what he did and why he wanted to keep making a difference. Keanu took a deep breath and made another call, this time to the organization that was helping families get back on their feet. He wanted to ensure that Sarah's stay would be as comfortable as possible, that she had the resources she needed to rebuild her life. He knew that the first step was always the hardest, but that didn't mean it had to be done alone. As he pulled away from the hotel, Keanu felt a quiet sense of fulfillment. He wasn't looking for praise, for recognition, or for anyone to know about his actions. It was just about offering someone the chance to stand up, to fight for a better life. And for Sarah, that small gesture of kindness had already begun to change her world. He didn't know what the future held for her, but for the first time, he believed she might have a chance. And that, he thought, was all that really mattered. The following days passed quickly, but for Sarah, they were the longest she had experienced in months. Every morning when she woke up, it was hard to believe that the night before, she had actually slept in a warm bed, without the constant fear of someone knocking on her car window, or the worry of where she and Emma would go next. It was a strange feeling, a feeling that Sarah hadn't allowed herself to experience for a long time. Peace. Keanu had been true to his word, reaching out to the resources he had promised and ensuring that Sarah's immediate needs were taken care of. But he didn't stop there. He checked in regularly, making sure she had food, a clean place to stay, and emotional support. His calls weren't just to check on logistics, he genuinely cared. Each time he reached out, he did so with the same kindness and sincerity that had initially caught her attention. It was a few days later when Sarah received another surprise. Keanu was at the door, standing in front of her with a warm smile. She hadn't expected him to show up in person again, but there he was, as calm and approachable as always, without any fanfare or expectation of recognition. "I thought I'd stop by," Keanu said, his tone light. "How are you and Emma doing?" Sarah opened the door and stepped aside, inviting him in. We're doing well, actually. I can't believe I'm saying this, but we're okay. I haven't felt this calm in so long. Thank you for everything." Keanu nodded, his smile not fading. "I'm glad to hear that. You're doing the hard work, Sarah. I'm just here to support." They sat down in the small living area of the temporary housing Sarah had been provided. The space was modest, but it was clean, and for Sarah, it was a luxury she had almost forgotten could exist. Emma was playing on a small blanket, kicking her little legs in the air and babbling happily. For a brief moment, Sarah felt a sense of normalcy, a feeling she thought she'd lost forever. Keanu noticed how different the atmosphere was from their first encounter, when Sarah had been on the brink of despair. She now looked more relaxed, more confident, and that small shift made all the difference in the world. She had hope again. "I've been looking into some long-term housing options for you," Keanu said, leaning forward slightly. "There's a program that offers more sustainable help for people who are getting back on their feet. I got some contacts who can help with job placement too, so that you can get back to work when you're ready." Sarah blinked, her eyes wide with surprise. "Keanu, you really don't have to do all of this for me. I'm just so—" She stopped herself, unsure of how to put it into words. "I'm just so thankful." Keanu smiled, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. "You don't have to thank me, Sarah. You're doing the real work here. You're taking the steps you need to take, and I'm just here to help make that a little easier." The conversation flowed easily after that, with Keanu offering more support and guidance while Sarah began to imagine a future that felt more stable. They talked about jobs she could apply for, local programs she could connect with, and most importantly, what the next few months could look like for her and Emma. There was a calm in the air now, a stark contrast to the desperation Sarah had felt just days ago. Keanu also made sure to emphasize that her journey was her own. "You've got the strength to do this," he said. "I'm just offering a bit of support, but the rest is all you. And I believe in you." By the time he left, Sarah felt more equipped to face the future than she had in a long time. She knew that the road ahead would still have its challenges, but the overwhelming feeling of isolation had lifted. Keanu had not only offered her immediate relief, but had also given her the tools to rebuild, one step at a time. As Keanu walked back to his car, he felt a quiet sense of fulfillment. He knew that helping Sarah and Emma wouldn't fix everything. But he had planted a seed, and it was up to Sarah to decide how she wanted to nurture it. And for Sarah, that seed of hope had already begun to grow. Days turned into weeks, and as Sarah continued to get settled into her new life, Keanu remained a steady presence. He didn't disappear after offering his initial help. Keanu made it a point to follow up regularly, always checking in to see how Sarah was doing and if she needed anything. His help had never felt like a fleeting act of kindness. Instead, it felt like a genuine commitment to making a lasting difference in her life. On one of his visits, Keanu brought along a small bag filled with essentials, clothing, baby supplies, and a few thoughtful items that Sarah had mentioned needing in their past conversations. It wasn't much, but to Sarah, it was another reminder that Keanu had not forgotten about her and Emma, that he cared beyond just a passing moment of kindness. "Hey, Sarah," Keanu greeted, his voice light and easy as always. "I thought you might need a few things, so I grabbed some essentials for you." Sarah was surprised. She hadn't expected anything more. Her life had been so uncertain, filled with days of wondering how she would make ends meet, but Keanu kept showing up, not as a celebrity trying to be the hero of the story, but as someone who genuinely cared. "Keanu, you really didn't have to do this," Sarah said, her voice filled with a mixture of gratitude and disbelief. Keanu simply smiled, his eyes crinkling with kindness. "It's no trouble at all. I'm just glad to see you and Emma in a better place. You're doing the hard part, getting back on your feet. I'm just here to help however I can." As Sarah unpacked the small bag, she was filled with a sense of appreciation, not just for the material items, but for the support and genuine kindness that Keanu had shown. This wasn't about charity. It was about partnership. Keanu was offering something far more meaningful. He was showing up consistently, offering her emotional and practical support, and giving her a sense of confidence that she hadn't felt in a long time. In addition to providing tangible help, Keanu also shared a little bit of wisdom during their time together. He talked to her about finding balance in her life, managing her time with Emma, and even about how to handle setbacks. Sometimes it wasn't just about the physical resources, it was about building up her mental and emotional resilience, and Keanu's steady advice was something that Sarah found comforting. One day, as Sarah worked on filling out job applications, she received a call from a local bakery she had applied to. They were offering her a part-time position, and they wanted her to come in for an interview. Sarah felt her heart race as she heard the words. It was an opportunity, one she hadn't even dared to dream of a few weeks ago. She immediately called Keanu to share the news. "Keanu, they want me to come in for an interview. I can't believe it. It's really happening." Keanu's voice was warm with excitement. "I knew you had it in you, Sarah. This is just the beginning. You've got this." With his support, Sarah felt empowered to take the next step. She was no longer stuck in the cycle of feeling lost and helpless. She now had a chance, an opportunity to build something for herself and Emma. In the days that followed, Keanu continued to check in, offering moral support as Sarah prepared for the interview. His encouragement meant the world to her. It wasn't just about securing a job. It was about regaining her sense of agency and independence. When the day of the interview came, Sarah walked into the bakery with her head held high, wearing a newfound sense of confidence. She thought of Keanu's words, how far she had come, and how much she had already accomplished. She knew the road ahead wouldn't always be smooth, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she had the strength to face it. And even as her life began to shift in small but meaningful ways, Keanu remained a quiet, steady force in the background, always there, always supportive, not for the recognition, but simply because it was the right thing to do. For Sarah, Keanu had become more than just a stranger who helped her in her time of need. He had become a symbol of the kindness and empathy that still existed in the world, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there were people willing to reach out and offer a hand. Through Keanu, Sarah learned that even the smallest acts of compassion could spark monumental changes in someone's life. And as Sarah moved forward, taking her first steps toward rebuilding, she knew that her journey was far from over. But now, with Keanu's unwavering support, she was no longer walking alone. Weeks passed, and Sarah found herself in a new routine. The part-time job at the bakery turned out to be just the opportunity she needed. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave her a steady income, and more importantly, it provided her with a sense of purpose and independence. Every day, she worked hard, learning the ropes of the bakery, interacting with customers, and feeling the satisfaction of earning an honest living. It wasn't easy, but it was a step forward, and for Sarah, that was all that mattered. With her job came a sense of stability, and she was finally able to secure a small apartment for herself and Emma, thanks to the resources Keanu had connected her with. It wasn't much, but it was their own space, a real home, not just a place to sleep in a car. The relief Sarah felt when she moved in was overwhelming. For the first time in months, she could let her guard down. There was room for Emma to play, a bed for both of them, and even a small kitchen where Sarah could prepare meals without worrying about where the next one would come from. Keanu kept his promise to stay in touch. He'd check in from time to time, asking how things were going and offering advice when needed. He had helped Sarah lay the foundation for a new life, but now it was up to her to build upon it. Every time she spoke to him, he reassured her that she was doing exactly what she needed to do. He encouraged her to keep moving forward, even when the challenges seemed daunting. One evening, after putting Emma to bed in their new apartment, Sarah sat down at her small kitchen table with a cup of tea. She thought back on everything that had happened, losing her apartment, living in the car, meeting Keanu, and finally starting to rebuild her life. It felt like a dream, like she had woken up from a long nightmare and found herself in a new world, one where things were starting to fall into place. The phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. It was Keanu. "Hey, Sarah. How are you?" His voice was warm, like an old friend checking in. "I'm doing well," Sarah replied, her smile evident even over the phone. "I actually just finished putting Emma to bed. She loves the new place, and I think we're both starting to feel like we belong again." Keanu smiled, hearing the change in her voice. "That's great to hear. I knew you'd get there. How's the job at the bakery going?" "It's going really well. It's not easy, but I'm getting the hang of it." "I'm grateful for the opportunity, Keanu, and for everything you've done. I don't think I'll ever be able to express how much your support has meant to me." Keanu paused for a moment, then said softly, "You don't have to thank me, Sarah. You've done the hard work. I just pointed you in the right direction. You're the one who's been making it all happen." Sarah's eyes misted over as she listened. She had learned so much from this experience, from the strength that had always been inside her, even when she didn't know it, to the kindness of strangers who had helped her when she needed it most. Keanu had shown her that even in the hardest of times, there were people out there who truly cared, and sometimes that was all you needed to keep going. "I'm starting to feel like I can really do this," Sarah said, her voice filled with quiet confidence. "I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm getting there. It feels like a new beginning." Keanu chuckled. "That's the spirit. Just keep going one step at a time. You've already come so far." "I know," Sarah said, a small laugh escaping her. "And it's all thanks to you, Keanu. You showed me that even in the darkest times, there's always a chance for a new beginning. I'm going to make sure Emma grows up knowing that people can be kind, that we can get through anything if we have each other. I have no doubt you'll do great, Sarah. Just keep believing in yourself. I'll always be here rooting for you." As they said their goodbyes and Sarah hung up the phone, she felt a sense of pride in herself that she hadn't felt in a long time. She had done it. She had taken the hard steps and fought through the toughest times of her life. And though there would still be challenges ahead, she knew she had the strength to face them. For the first time, Sarah truly believed that her new life wasn't just a dream. It was a reality she had created, with the help of a few kind people who had cared enough to show her the way. And as she sat in the quiet of her new home, looking around at the small but warm space she had worked so hard for, Sarah knew that her future was full of possibilities. She had been given the chance to start again, and this time she was going to make sure it was everything she and Emma deserved. As the months passed, Sarah's life began to unfold in ways she had never imagined. With Keanu's support and the resources he had helped connect her to, she now had a job, a stable place to live, and a sense of hope that had once seemed out of reach. But despite everything, Sarah knew the real work was still ahead. She had learned that the road to stability and independence was long and often difficult, but it was a road she was now willing to walk. One of the biggest changes was Sarah's newfound confidence. No longer weighed down by the sense of hopelessness that had once consumed her, she began to take charge of her future. She set new goals for herself and started taking steps toward them. She enrolled in a few online courses in business management, something she had always wanted to explore but never thought she could afford or have the time for. With the help of her new job and the steady income it brought in, she could finally invest in herself and her future. As she worked her way through the courses, Sarah found that she was more capable than she had realized. She was learning not just technical skills, but the confidence to take control of her life in ways she hadn't imagined. The idea of being a single mother was no longer something she feared. Instead, it became a driving force that pushed her to succeed. Every new milestone, whether it was completing an online assignment or managing her finances more effectively, reinforced her belief that she was on the right path. She also took the opportunity to reconnect with her community. While she had been focused solely on survival in the past, she now had the space to offer a helping hand when needed. She volunteered at local charities, helping other single mothers in similar situations, and began networking with local businesses, seeking opportunities for growth and stability. Sarah wasn't just surviving anymore. She was thriving, taking on the world with a determination she had never had before. And through it all, Keanu was still there, offering support when needed. He continued to check in on her progress, providing encouragement and celebrating her successes, no matter how small. Their conversations had become less about survival and more about her dreams and plans for the future. Keanu never asked for anything in return. His support was unconditional, and Sarah had come to appreciate his presence in her life as one of the most important and steadfast sources of encouragement. One day, as Sarah was sorting through some paperwork at her kitchen table, she received a call from Keanu. His voice was cheerful, as it always was, and he wasted no time with pleasantries. "Hey, Sarah, I just wanted to check in," he said. "How's everything going? I've been hearing about your progress, and I have to say I'm impressed." Sarah smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "Thanks, Keanu. It's been a journey, but I'm getting there. I've been doing some volunteer work, and I'm starting to think about opening a small business in the future. I never thought I'd be here." Keanu chuckled softly. "I'm not surprised. You've always had it in you. You just needed the chance to see it for yourself." The words struck Sarah deeply. She realized that, in many ways, Keanu had been the spark that had lit the fire inside her. Without his intervention that day, without his unwavering belief in her when she had none in herself, she might never have found the courage to take the first step. "You know, Keanu," Sarah continued, "I don't think I could have gotten here without you. You gave me the push I needed, but you also taught me something really important, that I don't have to wait for someone else to save me. I can do it myself." Keanu's voice softened. "I knew you could. And you've proven it every step of the way." It was in that moment that Sarah realized the greatest gift Keanu had given her wasn't just the immediate help when she was at her lowest. It was the belief in her ability to rise again, to take charge of her life and shape her future. Keanu had shown her that the power to change her life had always been in her hands. "Thank you, Keanu," Sarah said, her voice full of emotion. "You've done more for me than you'll ever know. But I'm not going to stop here. I'm going to keep going. For me, and for Emma." Keanu's response was simple, but it carried all the warmth and sincerity she had come to expect from him. "I know you will, Sarah. Keep going. I'm proud of you." As they ended the call, Sarah felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had started this journey feeling like there was no way out, but now with her own strength and the help of a kind, unexpected friend, she was building a life she could be proud of. She knew there would be more challenges ahead, but she also knew that, with the lessons she had learned and the support she had found, she was more than ready to face them. With Emma giggling in the background, Sarah took a deep breath, smiling at the bright future that was unfolding before her. She had come a long way, but this was just the beginning of the life she was creating, one built on hope, hard work, and the realization that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can lead to the most profound changes.